And we're live. I did it. I did it that time.
Good
Almost.
job.
Almost did it that
Almost.
time. Forgot the names. It's always something. Um, welcome everyone to another episode of Loose Canon. Is it bi-monthly if we're every 2 weeks? Is it bi-monthly
It's
or
it's
bi-weekly?
bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. Your bi-weekly lore talk show. This week we will be talking about. I mean, we're gonna talk. I think a lot of it's gonna be about the nine,
hmm
and
I,
just the
I I
powers.
just I just googled every 2 weeks, right,
Yeah.
to find out because I always anyway. It says bi-weekly means once every 2 weeks or twice a week.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Difference. Okay. Anyway,
Half monthly, except for the 5 week months. That's just there to throw us off.
mm,
Um, either way. Uh, so we've been getting a lot of nine stuff. Every week we get another invitation, and each of the invitations are of the major arcana. Zur also had the three of coins forever. Does he still have three of coins, or did they actually just remove it now?
no, I don't think he does. What
Oh,
does he have now? No, I don't
well,
think
he
he
has
does.
the five of swords now as
Yeah,
well. That's something
it
that he
doesn't
does
have.
have,
Yeah.
which are both tarot card numbers, suits and numbers, obviously.
hmm
Yeah. Anyone
Twist of
want to
fate.
chime in?
Well, it is interesting, and I know you've. Well, are we going to jump straight into
I don't know. I don't know how we
your?
should start.
Okay.
We have
Well,
everyone. It's been a while since we had everyone.
it is. It's so exciting. Um, I think one of the things that we say a lot, or that I say a lot. I think we all say a lot is like Bungie are always trying to find ways to tell us things.
Yeah.
So if they tend to pick things very intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that they're trying to tell us? Like
Yeah.
the fact that they use these references to tarot cards,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that we have some indication through the we know through the API what some of the upcoming tarot cards are going to be. Um, what is it that Bungie are trying to tell us with the cards that they've chosen and the order that they've.
Yeah. So far in order, we've had the world, justice, high priestess, the magician, strength, twins, and this week we have the tower. But there's an issue with the tower where you can't complete it because it requires vex kills on the Tangled Shore, which technically does exist within the Warden of Nothing strike. But for
Mhm.
whatever reason, somehow the Warden of Nothing strike is considered the EDZ, so it doesn't register vex kills on the Tangled Shore for the bounty, which
I
silly
wonder why
spaghetti
that
code.
is.
It's the spaghetti code, right? Like that's the term that gets thrown around, right?
Yeah, but I guess I don't know. It's just it seems odd. Like, is there something about about that particular strike?
Oh yeah, like
Like,
maybe it's actually because then in that case it would have to be built in the EDZ, right? Because it can't just be a. Could it just be like it's designated EDZ by mistake?
it could be. I really don't know. I don't know how. It's impossible without seeing any of the source code and or knowing the software. It's impossible to know how things are structured.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make you wonder if was there a decision that they made. Maybe it uses some EDZ assets or something, and they thought, you know what's easier is we just say the
Yeah,
template or whatever, like the base. This is
if it's
all
built on
hypothetical.
EDZ, but it's meant to look
Yeah,
like Tangled
yeah,
Shore. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Like how um there was I don't know where the Black Garden when you go into it, it's implied that it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like anywhere else on Mars.
It looks
But
like
then at the
Venus.
end, it's like, yeah, it looks like Venus. But then at the end, it's like, oh, actually, it was Mars. And it's kind of part of it is to do with like load times as well. Like you don't want to have to imagine if you were doing the Black Garden mission in Destiny, and you go through this portal, and suddenly you have a loading screen for Venus. It's not going to be a great experience, you know. It's better to just have something that looks like Venus, even though it's on a Mars map, you know. I wonder if there's something related to that. I don't know. Do we ever like teleport from the EDZ to the Tangled Shore? I don't think we do.
No, but Word of Nothing isn't actually in the Tangled Shore. Like it is, but there's no connection straight to it like the other strikes.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yeah, because it's like the only strike that you start in its unique location. It doesn't start in a patrol zone, and it's like, hey, head this way.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, it's weird. It's frustrating.
It's unfortunate.
It means we can't get there. I'm a week behind anyway because I missed a week.
Me too.
Yeah.
I picked up the bounty. I thought because I pick them up on the weekend and then I do them on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and I was like, oh, missed that one.
That sucks.
Yeah. There are dozens of us, so it's okay. But so I guess should we just go right to the we're gonna watch. I think I have it set up for the last 3, not including this week. It would have been the last 4 if we could have this week. So twins, strength, magician.
Cool.
We're gonna go to that. So.
What does it want?
You ask the same questions. You never listen.
Do you guys hear it?
No, it's not playing for me.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I forgot how I did this.
Oh, whenever you pause it, the the bar moves along. You know what? Let me just reload the page. See if that makes a difference. Okay, do you want to try again?
Yeah, here, you press play. Are you all on the same link with me?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, let me oh, did somebody else rewind it? I'll rewind it back to the start.
Do
And I'll
this as
just
well.
press play. Oh.
Can't press play.
Ah, you know what? Anon, you just press play and watch it on your. Is it working on yours?
It is.
Yeah. Oh, it's working here now. Okay.
What does it want?
You ask the same questions. You never listen.
Why did it do this?
He's afraid
Of death?
of everything.
So it kills.
He hates violence. He hates it so much that he'll murder anyone who tries to inflict it on him.
We'll just keep it going. It's got a playlist.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Come on. Gee, I hate this site. I really do.
What does it want?
Oh, Guardian's image is up.
How?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm really dropping the
No
ball
one
with this.
that's okay. This is it usually works better than this. I mean, it's always a bit of a pain, but it's not.
Yeah.
She can leave this place.
This way. You can leave this to me.
Think bigger. She can leave this game.
We don't understand.
Then I'm afraid it's impossible to explain.
Is it playing?
It is.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I really miss him.
Yeah, me too.
How did you say you knew each other again?
Oh, Namchi and me were buddies. Met in a little dive on Ceres. Used to play cards. He talked about you a lot. Said the Queen trusts you to talk to the Nine for her.
This one's not playing for me.
That true?
I got
Yeah,
it.
sort of. Doesn't seem important anymore.
Yeah. Well, you ever need a shoulder to cry on, I'm here for you.
So that really bummed me out to not be working properly.
Did it play?
It
I don't
played.
know
It
what
played all
happened
the
there.
way through on my end.
Okay. Yeah.
Very,
still haven't-
very frustrating to have it be like that, though. So, God damn, that sucks. So I have,
Well, I have the transcripts here, so
Yeah.
I can, I can remind myself what was said.
I have this theory that kind of just, it just kind of clicked the other day for me, and I immediately went and told Baxter, and then I kind of wrote up a thing on Twitter, kind of saying what made it click for me. So not counting this week's The Tower, just jumping back a week to the last one that we saw, the twins. In the twins, we see a video of, or like a, projection of the Drifter and Orin before she went full emissary, talking about Namchi and, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people actually thought, oh wow, the Drifter's such a good guy. Look how caring he is to Orin. Did you guys agree with that? Was that your interpretation as well?
Yeah, originally when reading the lore, I did.
Yeah, but like from the cutscene of the twins, though, did that read as the Drifter is caring for Orin?
No, it came across kind of slimy.
Yeah, like that's how I took it, and I felt like really alone, being like, "Wow, the Drifter's such an asshole," and everyone's like, "Oh, the Drifter's such a good guy in the end," and I'm like, "How?" Like, he's like, "Oh, you have something I want? Tell me more." Like,
Right.
I'll pretend to be a friend.
Yeah, he seems nice, but if you know the Drifter and know who he is,
Yeah.
you know it's more than that.
It seems like everybody who has been saying, "Wow, this guy's really creepy and shady." Oh, I guess not. Like, I don't. All right, that's your thing. All right then.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of that really old Native American story about the snake and the woman who finds the snake and takes care of the snake after she found it injured out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And then she nursed it back to health and took really good care of it. And then one day when she was getting ready to release it, she reaches in to pick up the snake, and the snake bites her. And of course, it's a venomous snake.
Eesh.
And as she's laying there dying, she looks at the snake and says, "Why did you bite me?" And the snake looks back at her and goes, "Well, you knew I was a snake, bitch."
Wow.
Okay.
Partially
was-
what I was expecting, but not what I was expecting.
Yeah, is that? Did you say that was a Native American story?
Yeah, but I put my English spin on it.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a very rhino
it's-
ending.
It sounded like yeah, that sounds accurate. Okay, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, so after I was just like really dwelling on the twins, and so for those who don't know, the twins is an equivalent card to the lovers in tarot, but it's actually kind of less common. So, like Baxter was saying earlier, if Bungie is saying something, it sort of feels like on purpose. Like they did it for a reason. And so I was wondering what would the reason for the twins be. And my first thought was just because that is usually the reason for a lot of things. They just do it because it's what they think sounds better. And at the end of the day, that's what most things can be. It's just, it sounds better, and they're trying to make things sound better and be more palatable for the wide audience. But when I looked back at every entry up to this point, World, Justice, High Priestess, Strength, or Magician Strength, Twins, it felt a little different because, so if you remember back, the first entry, we actually got a cutscene, and it was the Drifter with Shadow of Your Shadow tries to kill the Drifter, and Drifter does a little magic trick. He summons a Taken, and Orin arrives and says, "You've been deemed worthy," and attaches the Hall onto the Drifter's derelict. And so we have the World, the Hall. In the second one, we have Justice. It's called Justice, and in it, we see Orin talking about how she became the emissary. And the Nine are all like, "Oh, do you regret it?" And she's like, "No, because like this is who I am." And it's like her form of justice. She was seeking out justice for Mara to find out who killed Shurido. And then in the third one, High Priestess, we see that giant statue of Mara slowly turning its head to us. We have the High Priestess. The fourth one, the Magician. Once again, we actually watched the fourth one. It didn't really show the whole thing, but you climb up the spire on floating Drifter's coins. So the Magician's doing a card trick, the Drifter, the Magician. Or a coin trick, not a card trick. Fifth one's Strength. It's about us. We are the Strength. And it mentions being able to leave the game. And then the sixth one is the one that makes it like crazy. Because before Orin was Orin, she was an Awoken. Before she was a Guardian, she was just an Awoken. She reawoke in the Distributary, as all of the Awoken did. But before that, she was human. She was a human that boarded the Exodus Green, a human who had a brother, who she left on Earth. So she, an Awoken, has a human brother still. Or had a human brother. So for the video to be Drifter and Orin talking, and it to instead of being lovers, which everyone had already assumed that they had like a thing, they chose to call it the twins.
And it's interesting as well because the card the lovers mm-hmm. and the card the twins is the same card as you said. Mm-hmm. It's reading the Wikipedia article, it seems less common to call it the twins. Generally, it's called the lovers, mm-hmm. which means that there must have been, again, as we were saying, this seems like an intentional change, an intentional decision that Bungie made to call it the twins rather than the lovers.
Though to also kind of, that is a possibility that they are long lost siblings. But it could also be them showing that it's just the relationship, because Orin does become the emissary, mm-hmm. who then now has a very unique relationship with the Drifter. And that could be why, because the twins doesn't it represents relationships. Mm-hmm. So it could just be presenting like these two are connected in a lot more than most. And because like she's the emissary and he's the Drifter, and they're like odd relationship, that's why it's the twins. Yeah, it's because they have that unique relationship.
That's true, but if that is the case, then Bungie could have called the card the lovers, as it's commonly called, and it wouldn't have had any.
It would have still just stood for relationship, not necessarily romantic relationship, but just relationships. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But and that might be why they didn't call it the lovers, because if they called it the lovers, everyone's immediately going to go, "Oh, are they sleeping together?" Like, "Oh, there's a relationship here. There's something going on."
But equally,
the twins, it's like they just have this like paired relationship together that's not at all about romance.
Well, I kind of disagree with that. I agree with that, and I disagree with that, mm-hmm. because you're right. If Bungie had called it lovers, then people would have said, "Oh, they're implying that they're lovers."
Yeah.
But Bungie called it twins, people are going to imply that they're twins, or infer that they're twins. So, and I don't think that's something that we don't hear a lot of the people that boarded the Exodus Green. We don't hear about their former lives.
Yeah.
Like what was the name of the captain of the Exodus Green I can't remember. But we don't hear any.
Alice Lee.
Who was it? Alice Lee. Yeah, we don't. Alice Lee. Anyway, we don't hear anything about like her past. Like, it seems intentional that Bungie would mention that Oren was leaving behind.
Yeah.
Hey, this is just a wild thought. Do you think there's any kind of implication into the gambit symbol being twin snakes and being green?
There is now let me find it because I just had it open earlier.
When you think about the iconography of the symbol that they use for the gambit sign, it's two snakes, and it's it's a jade coin, which the jade that they use is a green jade.
So the weird thing is that the Drifter mentions how like the only thing he believes in is the coin now, and it kind of almost sounded like the whole idea of the Gambit coin came from the 9, and so for Orin to appear and like give him the haul, it's like, so was that not his first encounter with the 9? Did he actually encounter them before? And if so, like the reason I think this is how it is, like that they are twins, is because the 9 are the oldest living things, I guess. I did air quotes. Yeah, sentient beings. They saw everything. Presumably, they are omnipotent in some, or not omnipotent, omniscient.
Omniscient, yeah.
They're omniscient. Like they would have seen the human Drifter and human Orin emissary stay on Earth, go on the Exodus Green, die, become awoken, come back, die, become a guardian, and then Drifter, die, become a guardian, and be like, oh hey, look, there they are. They're the twins that left each other.
Well, it's that whole interconnectedness of the universe thing, and the philosophy that they try to drive home with Ulan Tan and some of the other stories that they use. But what's funny about that, when you say that, the 9's existence very much was fundamentally rooted around other sentient life existence within the universe. Like for one being aware of the other, it very much took the two to exist. It's like there's no reflection if there's nothing in the mirror to look at. It's the same with the 9, or the way that they try to present it, as if the 9 have always been there, because when the first matter or whatever existed, they existed, and so on and so forth. It's like it's this very duality of nothing. It's I don't know that they would necessarily be interjecting immediately off the bat in the universe. That's something that maybe is going to be explored, but
it seems like the first time they
manipulate.
tried was on the A113, right? Because that was when they tried to actually do something. Until then, it didn't seem like they had much of a presence other than sheer existence.
Well, thinking about it though, like A113, initially that was connected with Crota.
Yeah,
right?
That's weird, isn't it? Or was it only presumed to be connected with Crota?
Yeah, that's possible. There was some, there was an implication in the lore that it was originally associated with Crota, and then with the death of Crota, something else took over the use of these keyholes. And yeah.
So I just actually remembered what it was. The 9 were silent until the Traveler came, and then they were like, oh, this thing can do what can't be done. Maybe we can exist without being, like you said, a reflection of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would say that they were pretty dormant at least until the Golden Age, where they were just like, we can't do anything other than what we've already done. We've already like stretched our limits.
Yeah.
So we were at the peak of the age.
Mm.
But so yeah.
You know, there in sidebar real quick, and I'm not going to go into big detail, but there's this really cool philosophy, and I'll try to find it somewhere and share it with you guys and share it on Twitter. But there's this idea that cultures emerge, and they reach a point in an age where they have ascended to the highest form of, let's just say, there's a theory that ages are cyclical, and like the medieval age, you know, and all these different ages happen for a reason, because we can only progress to a certain peak, and then we find a way to just destroy ourselves as humans, as humanity. And so we reach a peak of enlightenment or a peak of technological advancement, and we cannot progress any further. So we hit a barrier, and then we start to dismantle ourselves within that barrier. And there's this idea that these ages that have happened over time are cyclical, and they will keep happening. And we will keep rising to a peak and then collapsing, rising to a peak and collapsing. I just thought that was really neat that they use a lot of when they say things like the dark age, you know, and they use the ages as a way to describe the before or the after or what has happened in the past. And there's just like this idea that humanity rose and we figured out how to use Siva, and we made all these huge ships, and we were enlightened by the traveler, and we got to this point where we hit this mass, you know, just we were basically at our peak, and then the darkness happened.
So just because I actually got distracted there, to finish off where my theory was going, if because it doesn't just end with, are the Drifter and Orin like long lost twins or siblings of some kind. We have 2 more weeks ahead of us. This week we have the tower, and sadly it's bugged. And I was really hoping to see what the tower would be for like the actual mysteries and potential. I started thinking about it. So if it has to do with the tower, what could it be? And the first thing that came to mind for me was the Red War, because one of the 9 actually kind of blinded the dead orbit crews out in the like edges of the system that essentially allowed Gaul to get in. Baxter disappeared. Allowed Gaul to get in, you know, like if it wasn't for them, it would have been a very different story. Next week, however, we're getting the Hanged Man, and then the last week we're getting Death. So, what do you guys think? Like with this, what do you guys think the Hanged Man or Death, or even the Tower could be, since we still haven't seen it?
Shoot, it's all speculation at this point.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, absolutely.
The first thing that comes to mind is maybe the Drifter finds himself in a sticky situation and becomes the Hanged Man. You know, he's for whatever reason hated all of a sudden for something, or maybe we see some more of Aldrin out there, and they're going to bring that into the fold.
That's actually something that I saw. I forgot who said it, but someone said maybe Aldrin will be the Hanged Man.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes sense. Like, just with themes, like it feels like it fits the most with Aldrin.
Yeah. For me personally, thinking about Death, the first place I went to was either Orin is going to die or one of the 9 are going to die, which I don't know how that would work. Ultimately, like one of the 9 dying, that would be huge if Orin or one of the 9 died. But then as I thought about it more, it felt more likely that the 9 are the ones responsible for killing Namchi or Shuraido at the very least, and we'd see one of those deaths played out as a cutscene. And it would be like, if it was Namchi's death, because if the 9, even if the 9 aren't responsible, if it was Namchi's death, Namchi died by the Aphelion, and could the Aphelion be a future enemy? You know, like
Right.
if the Aphelion are different from the 9, could the 9 reveal to us what the Aphelion are? And so we're just being like, oh my god, what is this? And it's like there's a new thing coming, and we're just gonna be left on like that cliffhanger, and it's like you gotta wait to see when they come, because they're coming, but not now, you know. So
I mean, both of
it's,
those. I was just thinking because the Hangman could also represent Dead Orbit. Because didn't they have a shader called the Hangman?
They did. They had Revenant, Hangman. That's all I remember.
Yeah, so like it'd be kind of
used to-
interesting, like with like if Dead Orbit was the Hangman, either with them showing how the 9 blocked Dead Orbit's view
Oh yeah.
with the Red War, and like that leading into the death scene, or like showing Dead Orbit like seeing something out there like the Aphelion, and then leading into the next week with the death. But
That would be pretty cool, because then that would tie something in from, you know, D1 all the way into the story today. Because that's where Dead Orbit and A113, and then you think about Dead Orbit and the awakening of the array system. I mean, just all these little things that they could bring back as like, you know, tiebacks.
They're always the ones that had the most to gain with the 9. You know, they were always the closest with the 9, like literally and figuratively.
So I know we had this discussion before in a chat somewhere, I think. But you know that I don't think that the death card is going to reveal a death.
You don't think so?
That's no, I don't. I think you see that the death card.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, I know I mentioned this before, that the death card implies change. That could be a death, but it could be anything. You know, I was just kind of, you know, according to Eden Gray and other authors on this subject, this is from Wikipedia, it is unlikely that this card actually represents a typically it implies an end, possibly of a relationship or interest, and therefore implies an increased sense of self-awareness. And I actually think the description of the Tower tarot card is that so this card follows immediately after the Devil in all tarots that contain it, and is associated with sudden disruptive revelation and potentially destructive change. So I actually think that the Tower, just basing on like Wikipedia's description of what different tarot cards are associated with, I think the Tower is probably going to be a more revelatory like change than death. Well, not that I still think there'll be a change, but I think more of a change to like the status quo. Maybe it'll be a change to somebody's motivation. Maybe it'll be a cutscene that shows how, you know, we know that Oren from one of the entries kind of discovered that who she thought was it Eli? Is that what he went by?
He called him Eli. He called himself Eli then.
So she discovers Eli is actually also, you know,
Dredge and Hope.
Dredge and Hope and Wu Ming, and you know he had these different personas, and she felt betrayed. So maybe the Tower, maybe death is the death of that kind of friendship. I don't know. That's one possibility.
The issue I have with that personally is that so far the cards feel very literal. Like they are not meant to be interpreted. They are just meant to represent, in my opinion. Like the world doesn't actually mean like a new world. I don't know what it means, but I know it doesn't mean that. But like in this case, it represents the hall. The magician represents the drifter. Strength represents us. Justice represents the emissary. The high priestess represents Marasav. So death represents someone or something. In my opinion,
Aldrin.
it would. In my opinion, it would represent a physical death of some kind, rather than
I think it would be.
interpretation.
I just think it would be cool if they took it in a literal sense and they just brought Aldrin to the tower. After we saw the tower, then we saw Aldrin in the tower.
I feel like it'd be really. You're really cutting out, Baxter.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep on. So occasionally, it's mainly Rhino's audio cuts out, and I was wondering if switching off the video might use. I don't know if it's my connection or if it's. I
Yeah,
don't know
your
what it is.
audio cuts. I haven't heard Rhino's audio cut.
Hey, Anon, what was the world?
The Hall, in my opinion.
Because I find tarot cards kind of interesting.
Okay.
So they do have like certain interpretations past them.
Mm-hmm.
So the world is actually an interpretation of not like necessarily a world,
Mm-hmm.
but an actual like kind of plane between existence.
Okay,
So
well,
it's also
this
like an ending of
disproves
cycle
what I'm
life.
saying, so you can go ahead and shut up.
Well, no, so I mean like it makes sense though.
Yeah, no,
'Cause
okay.
it's still-
Continue.
It's like the potential of perfect union with the one power of the universe. It tells of full happiness is also to give back to the world, sharing what we have learned or gained, which makes sense with it being the whole, because it's like the nine giving this like cosmic consciousness, like this thing to the drifter, which makes sense. And then like when you're looking at like the tower, like Baxter said, and then when you look at the hangman, it's not actually like the actual interpretation of the hangman is self-sacrifice. So it's someone who has put themselves on the hanging pole, which originally was someone being hanged by their foot instead of their neck. But it was done in self-sacrifice. And then death is considered not to be death, but rebirth and like a new beginning. Which I feel like with all the interpretations, it'd be really interesting. I feel like that fits still with everything.
Yeah.
Well, they also use that as the fool, right? The hangman.
Mm-hmm.
That one I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of knowledge on these, but I have a little bit.
I think that the fool is separate from the hanged man, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I misheard you.
The fool was 0, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fool is another card.
Well,
So
there were two. What is it on the? Okay, so like on the major arcana, the fool was like that meant your journey through life, which I don't know. I've always thought that was funny that they. This is just me going back to D1 and like Fate of All Fools. When I first started researching, Destiny meanings and stuff, back in the crazy Wild West days, the fool, from what I understood in tarot, the fool kind of just meant it was like representing our newbie existence to the game world and how we encountered everything. We were the human on the journey trying to repair our life and figure out what had happened to the past, basically. And so like the fool, it kind of means that you're ignorant, you don't know what's going on, you're learning, you're still in that salad day of trying to figure out what's happening and what happened around you. And then the hangman was, he was the character that was held by the leg upside down. But from what I gathered in tarot, a lot of times those two cards got confused back in the day, and people would associate the hangman with the fool and the fool with the hangman. But they weren't ever really the same card, but a lot of times people made that misinterpretation. So the hangman was what was that one? That was the one that was, he was like a part of the tree of life, which, in Destiny we had the tree in the tower originally, and then we had the hangman. And so when I was researching hangman back when in D1 from Dead Orbit, I always associated it as Dead Orbit's kind of trying to say that they wanted to be, they were enlightened by knowing that the Traveler was not here to protect us and that we couldn't put our faith in the Traveler, and maybe there was, he's not the answer. They were enlightened to go seek out and find something else. So that's what I interpreted from Hangman way back in the day. Because because the Hangman is an enlightened figure, and the Fool is the person on the very beginning of the journey who's ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's beginning and end, Fool and the Hangman.
The thing with all the things that we've seen so far, though, is that they've always had something to do with the Nine. It wasn't anything random. Like if the tower would be about the Red Legion coming in, it wouldn't just be like, yeah, the Red Legion came in. It would be someone of us strategically did something that caused it. So with how you're talking, or all this talk, the Hanged Man kind of makes me think, what if, and I think this is a good direction to go, what if the Hanged Man is to represent Cade? And that we'll see it played out through Varix talking to the Nine. Because what if that was how they tie in? What if the Nine are indirectly responsible for Cade's death, or directly responsible?
I mean, yeah,
because there hasn't been anything new in the visits to the Nines, right? Like, it all references stuff that's already happened.
Yeah. Nothing. It's just a new perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess technically the Drifter getting the haul is new to us, but it happened previously. So, like, recently, if you're in the Ishtar Discord, or if you followed me on Twitter, and I think actually Mylan Games put out a video about this as well. I forget who mentioned it. Someone found that from the lore book Most Loyal, Unknown Space, which is where we go to originally the Trials of the Nine, we go to the Unknown Space. Varix talks to the Nine, and it basically mentions being like cast away and beginning anew, which made them, and I agree with it, believe Varix is the blade sharpened anew, which was a reference to the first Invitation of the Nine, where they said they had three people: the Drifter, the blade sharpened anew, and the Hourglass. And so if Varix is one of the three, could the Nine have done enough that caused Varix to let the Fanatic out, and then Cade's death? Cade's self-sacrifice.
I would very much like that, because I feel like it doesn't really fit with Varric's personality to do everything he did at the beginning.
It was
where,
it was
there
a
is
drastic
some
shift.
what's going on. Yeah, so it's like having the Nine interfere and Varric seeing a bigger story and something much grander than his own little world would make sense for him to do that, because all of that did set in motion a ridiculous amount of things that no one could foresee.
Yeah, because now, I think we mentioned it last week. Now, or I know we have, just whenever we did, we have Varix going House of Judgment, saying he's Kellikels. We have Mithrax going House of Light, saying we just want to survive, and we have Aramis going House of Devils, claiming I think she's also claiming Kellikels, but trying to rebuild the House of Devils. Like, it's making this giant war happening. If Varix didn't do that, so many things would have been different. Varix would have been happy in the Reef. Uldren would have been in the prison. Cade would be alive. Aramis would have still been in the prison. Mithrax would have just been bridging the gap between Lixney and Guardians. And
if Uldren hadn't been released, like, none of the events, like everything that followed in Forsaken as well.
Oh yeah, Riven though. Riven would still be alive.
Riven would still be alive and imprisoned, effectively.
That is crazy.
Well, but I mean, they would.
So then the curse wouldn't exist.
No.
The Awoken wouldn't have been further crippled. Marasav wouldn't have revealed herself.
No.
Exactly. That was too big of a domino for Varix alone to knock it over.
But as well, like, I wonder, I mean, we're getting into kind of alternate histories almost because but it's kind of interesting because
This is the fun part.
like if Mara was
Come on.
so we only
Come on.
we only went to the Dreaming City because of everything to do with Uldren,
Yeah.
you know.
We were looking for
And-
revenge.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe Petra would still have somehow made contact with Mara. I don't know. It does seem like there's a lot of, like you say, as domino effects go. There's so many.
I feel like the only reason why we got invited into the Dreaming City was because we helped Petra chase down Uldren. Uldren released something when he went to the Dreaming City. If Uldren himself wasn't released from the Prison of Elders, it would have just been, okay, we still got to keep this secret.
Yeah.
You know?
And as well, the communication with Mara only works because of the Oracle. The Oracle can only be powered by
The Blind Well.
the Blind Well,
Which
and the
required
Blind Well
3
can
weeks.
only be powered by Guardians, realistically.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just way too much, like, because Mara designed all of this stuff as well.
Yeah.
So, like, Mara knows what's going on. So, like, Mara built the Dreaming City in preparation for something to happen.
Yeah.
But, like, I
and
think there's just way too much on the line to just, like, leave it to chance of, like, oh, maybe Varix will do something.
I do think there was an expectation as well that I'm sure there's some entry somewhere I remember reading which implied that the Awoken, or at least Mara and the Techians, believed that the Guardians would come to the Dreaming City immediately after the defeat of Oryx, or at least that there was something that I read that implied that the Awoken, not the Awoken in general, but that we'd taken a long time to get to the Dreaming City.
Yeah.
I'll try and find that.
I mean, we get called like the first Guardian to ever be there, but there's evidence that Orin went there before us as well. Like, I guess maybe she was considered less of an... Maybe she was never considered a Guardian because she was considered the emissary, and they're just like loopholing it, but... I mean...
So, Anon,
Yo.
does it give a name or, like, anything to specify the third person of the 9?
It was... What do you mean?
Because there's the blade sharpened anew. Like, is
Yeah.
there something like that? Like, what was the full sentence of the 3?
It was the Hourglass, the Blade Sharpened Anew, and the Drifter.
So, is there an idea of who the Hourglass represents? So I was trying to think, because I don't feel like the Hourglass really matches with... Because I was trying to think of, like, Uldren. Because so much craziness is happening with Uldren. Like, I feel like there's something going on with him. He has to play a bigger, like, a vital role in something for all this stuff to happen.
So Vertigo said, well, I would say Kaba. Some people would say Kabia. I think it's probably Kabia, even though I wish it wasn't Kabia.
I disagree.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, it's interesting because he definitely did. So what the
So
the emissary actually
here's
says.
the full sentence, just so we can like have
Yeah.
it. The first, an hourglass counting down with infinite patience. The second, we're assuming Varix, a forgotten blade sharpened anew, and now the dredgen. So the hourglass was the first person, which means it was before the events of probably the Taken King. Which, I mean, that's not
what about
really
Mara?
narrowing it down, but
I think it's Mara. I know that's
Yeah.
maybe. I think, as we were just saying, the whole Dreaming City was built years in advance of the events that are happening at the moment, with the express purpose of, kind of. Well, I guess we don't know the exact purpose of it, but we know enough to say that it was designed for us to be able to contact Mara. It was. I don't know if the curse was necessarily predicted, but as we said, the blind well was created to the only thing that can power it is guardians, realistically, and that's a huge amount of foresight. And I think that is that there's many instances where Mara has showed an extreme amount of patience in planning ahead for things that other people don't really have any concept of.
Yeah.
I feel like I would say my vote for who the Hourglass would be either Marasov or the Exo Stranger. I feel like those would be the two that would make the most sense.
I never thought Marasov until we started talking about this, where I'm like, like Marasov is literally like an hourglass with infinite patience. She's just she's sitting and waiting and just letting everything happen. Like her people are dying and she's like, I need to wait. This is not the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even everything in the distributory, like she could have made an argument as soon as they awoke in the distributory. She could have said, "Look, we need to get back."
She could have made it hell. Like, literally,
yeah,
she could have done. She could have made it awful, and they would have been like, "Oh God, let's leave." Like that would have been it.
Yeah, but some people would argue. Well, anyway, I mean, she was so much more manipulative than that. She was so she used, like, she was very cunning and very clever, and thought, how do I get to the point where people actually want to go back and do the right thing, what she considers the right thing.
Well, I can't help but think about the original cutscene with our dealings with the reef, and needing their help with the Eye of a Gate Lord and Uldren and Mara being there at the epicenter of that event, and how that unlocked the Black Garden, and the whole idea that some people have that was possibly in part a manipulative action on behalf of the Queen, but Uldren wasn't aware of it because she was keeping a secret that only she knew and he wasn't aware of at the time. But that didn't mean that Uldren didn't already have his own side manipulation he was trying to run as well. But I thought sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just thought that the first thing I thought when I read those three words was just quite literally Hourglass, Mara, and then the rest I thought, I was just taking it to literal form, like Blade, Kuria, and then here we are. But I as people talk about this, and that's what's so interesting about this, is people talk about this, you can almost take 4 or 5 different people or characters within the game and interchange them with those different names, just because if you take them literally or if you take them figuratively. And that's the key difference. If you take them figuratively, you come up with a whole different interpretation.
It reminds me of, when there was that one of the prophecies from Osiris, which was like, the first needs the second to succeed. I can't remember the whole thing, but like the amount of time we put into figuring out who each, which race or which, and we were like, okay, well, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. And then, how many years ago was that?
One.
One? No, it was longer than one.
1 and a half.
From when to when?
The prophecy was last year.
The prophecy was a year and a half ago.
That prophecy is from. Okay, let me.
That prophecy is from Curse of Osiris, isn't it?
Let me see it. I don't think so.
But
Vision
so what I was thinking. So
yeah.
Vision 47 was from the Taken King.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah.
The first needs the second to fail. The third needs the first to succeed. The second will never cease, yet the first always prevails. The third is born of all outcomes, unless all ends flow from the same pit. Was from Taken King.
Mm-hmm. Which literally at the time I took to mean the first was us, the second was the Warmind AI, and then the third was the Darkness or the Nine. But that was just way back then. I know, but that was way back then when we didn't know anything.
The first are the Fallen, the second are the Vex, and the third are the Hive. You're stupid.
But do you see how literally it could be one thing, but then figuratively it could mean a completely different thing?
Yeah. Well,
Either way, Guardian, what were you trying to say?
yeah, that's that we
This is
shouldn't
all-
go down that avenue.
Yeah, I know. Like, I just read the Vision 47. Like, oh my gosh, you could so just twist this to just make it's just ridiculous. So what I was gonna say is, because there was a time. I mean, when Mara first, I don't know what to call it, so I'm just gonna say ascended. Um, she became like she left her physical form in our plane, so she could have easily interacted with the Nine at that
Well, she
level.
did.
Yeah, that's what I was actually thinking about before. Like, so if the only person we know that is confirmed is the Drifter. So if we look at the Drifter's actions, we know that he's constant, at least sometimes, talking to Orin, possibly the Nine directly. So we have to look at that as like a clue, right? Excuse me.
Yes.
If you look at that as like when they're chosen by the Nine, they have direct communication with Orin, and so the trials of the Nine was like a special case where none of us were chosen. We were seeking them; they weren't seeking us, and so then we look at Varix. He has unknown space where he's talking to someone, so that is like the qualifier for him to be the blade sharpened anew, and the dialogue choices and the fact that so much has happened because of one thing that he did, and it just feels like someone that's playing a bigger game than Varix can is behind it. The third and only other person I can think of that would fit that bill is Mara Sav, because she's talking to the Nine. There's Mara, there's Orin, there's Varix, there's the Drifter, and there's us, and we are becoming the fourth person, I think, personally. We're becoming the fourth chosen person. Orin became the emissary.
The whole Nine's end game was to try to figure us out.
So yeah,
Because
I
we're
think it has to be
the
Mara.
enigma. Yeah.
Yeah. But the first is definitely the Fallen. I remember
But I
that.
feel like that makes a lot of sense because it would explain how Mara has such like a high power with the Nine,
Yeah.
and it isn't just like because everyone else is pretty much like we are nothing compared to the Nine, pretty much.
I
Like,
remember
they
the
have
speaker
same
used to
power.
say, I wish the Nine would help. Or, no. It was, if only the Nine would help us.
Mhm.
Like, he used to actually say that. And it's like, they can't do shit, though. Like, they're practically
Right.
useless.
But he's aware of their he's aware of something that they can do.
He's aware of the rumors.
I mean, yeah, I guess that maybe that's it. So,
They're the
but
reason
we
he
know
died.
from this.
What about Zer though? Like how is it that?
Zur was a prototype.
No, I
Right.
understand that. I understand, but how is it that Zer can provide us with weapons? Like, obviously the Nine don't seem to be able to do very much at all in terms of, like in.
Well, remember when they
interacting
said that the
without words.
remember when yeah, but remember when they said that the Nine's tentacles are everywhere. Basically, is what they're trying to say, that they are in and around everything. So wouldn't that mean that they're able to tap into some sort of parallel existence? So maybe that's how Zur can bring those weapons to us. I'm just trying to,
By that logic, though, Baxter, how is it that when I killed Crota, I got a No Land Beyond? Did he have that sniper rifle? Was he just walking around with it?
Yeah, he had it in his backpack. Crota's glowing green backpack.
Well, no,
I mean,
that was
it makes
funny
sense
because
for Zer.
Yeah.
Say,
I'm
'cause
saying,
he's
it makes a little more sense.
So
with
like
Zur.
the Nine would know where these unique items are. Because when we get an exotic weapon, it's not like, oh, there's 1,000 of these.
Yeah.
Like
right,
in
but hold on.
game, it's
So
like,
we
here's one special one for you.
we tried to figure this out a long time ago. Like, how does that work? So mechanically, we tried to we tried to say a long time ago. We tried to say, okay, so engram is a pure form of matter, and it can be turned into whatever is hard coded within that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the key to how it fundamentally works. So like, for instance, you get this engram, it's already hard coded with a certain information, and then boom, when you open it, and if you're not skilled enough, you have to take it to a cryptarch who will open it for you. But
Engrams
if you're skilled enough, you can open it.
engrams bother me because a lot of the things that they carry inside them would be more convenient to carry not in an engram.
Well, I think an engram is because an
They're
engram is technically
like this
the.
big.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're
I think
huge.
that's more for visual. I think engrams could be very small because an engram itself is actually
I've seen them on the
the
ground.
theoretical,
yeah.
physical, like most efficient storage unit
I
that
disagree.
science have designed. No, it's actually like that's
They're
proven
huge.
evidence. Okay, not the size of them, but the shape itself, the dodecahedron, or yeah, so it is actually considered scientifically the most efficient form of maintaining like mass.
I think
Like the
a
ones they have is like a
square
big
would
of
at
it,
least
but
be better.
it's
You
not
can,
actually.
you
Like, I
can
don't know
stack squares on a pallet and then
Cube.
just, truck your guns on a pallet.
I did research into it, and it's like the dodecahedron was considered to be the most efficient way of storing mass. I don't know
How
why.
many
but
times
that's what
has
it
an
said.
engram rolled off a slight incline?
Hey, a square can do that too.
No, it can't.
I would assume that because Glimmer itself is pretty small, so I would assume like engrams are actually.
Glimmer is
I
another
don't
issue
know.
I have.
It's so hard. It's just
Dollar
so
bills
like,
are
theoretical.
easier to carry.
It's true. Well, no, it's different
just
because Glimmer itself
programmable matter.
isn't money. Yeah, it's matter. So that's why Glimmer is more important because you can turn it into.
I mean, I've got tons of
wall.
matter, just so you know.
Well, what I want to know is, does the Glimmer follow the gold standard? Like, because if it doesn't, it's not real.
It follows some city standard.
I don't think it follows the gold standard. It's probably a Glimmer standard because it's very different.
So it's make believe.
The economy
No,
is within the city.
It's make believe.
Okay, technically it is the gold standard, but it's not because the gold standard is more of like, hey, I have money, but I also have the resources to back it up. That's how
Well,
you make money.
here's
and a
the
company
craziest thing.
ends up fine.
It's
But
all
like you
evil.
have it there. You have both the money and the gold in your hand.
Think about where we got it from.
Dead people.
Glimmer are like jumbo dice, like the ones you'd hang from your car, and you need. When I pick up a piece of Glimmer, that's one piece of Glimmer. They don't even have $10 Glimmers. It's extremely inconvenient. If only the 9 could
Yeah,
help
I'll
us.
agree. I'll agree with that. But like, it makes sense theoretically until you're in game and like, what am I gonna do with all this? Like, this is ridiculous. Like,
What is up with Baxter's internet?
Yeah. Okay, but moving back into topic.
Turning my camera off because you keep on cutting out. I think I don't know what I need to do.
That's
It's usually
crazy.
pretty stable. Don't know what's going on.
That's
So getting
strange.
back on the topic, I do like the idea of the blade sharpened anew being Varric's,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Varric's had a huge role to play in the Refors and
That
setting
too.
up a lot of what happened, and then he kind of like fizzled out a little bit.
Mm.
So it makes sense for him to be the blade sharpened anew because it's like, okay, he had a purpose, he kind of lost it, and now and he kind of started fading and doing weird stuff.
Mhm.
And this is like, okay, we're gonna pull you back and sharpen you, and now you go like get back to having a purpose, which I really like.
Huh.
Well, we are getting close to the end of our time. So does anyone have Baxter? Are you still there? I don't know if you're there because I can't see you now.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm
Okay.
just
Does
preserving
anyone have anything
precious
else they
bandwidth.
want to say?
I
Time
am
winding
really
for
excited
All
to
at
see. I'm really excited to see what the tower cutscene is going to be.
Seriously, it's unfair, especially because I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
wait 2
I
weeks to
hope-
get it.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's the thing. I'm really waiting for somebody to upload it to Ishtar.
So what's gonna happen? Everyone's gonna do every part of the step except for the kill the Vex, and then they don't fix it, and Thursday comes around, and then they're just gonna have the same bounty.
Yes.
So it'll be delayed a week, or
Yeah,
will
no,
we get
like
to?
the invitations will be delayed, so it'll be like if they don't fix it by Thursday, it'll just be delayed until they fix it every week until they fix it.
And
Right.
if the last card is so, here's something that I've been wondering. If the last card is death,
Mhm.
and it does bring a significant change, like if you think about the completion of the Last Wish raid, it brought a significant change to the game. Like my suspicion is that they had planned that the like getting. I don't know about this, but it would be cool if unlocking the death tarot card led to some significant change in the game. If
What if a 9
all of
becomes
the
physical?
Well, that's why maybe. That's
But-
why
but
I
I-
thought like a physical death of a character would work because
Well, it would, but all I'm trying to say is whatever this change is, if the timing is now off, that's not going to happen when they originally thought it would. That's going to happen a week later. So that's going to be if they were trying to tie this in with the introduction of something to do with like Sin of Opulence.
I don't know if it'll matter that much because
Well, I mean,
everything,
yeah.
like, I don't think anything's going to happen because so far everything has been like, it's a new perspective on something that's already happened. So I don't think the death is going to be something that's like, oh shoot, this person died in front of us. I think death might actually be like Aldrin, like the 9 revisiting Aldrin, like, oh shoot, like this happened, like the rebirth like aspect of it. Instead, like nothing's going to happen that week. But then maybe like Aldrin shows up in the tower and we get a new quest or something happens.
And Season of Opulence, even if it worked out perfectly for 9 weeks, Season of Opulence would still be like 5 to 6 weeks out past that. So, at the very least, they have wiggle room to have failure, which actually might actually be why it's a tie-in, because they're like, even if a Guardian misses 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, they'll still end it into Season of Opulence, and you know that's not bad.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, that's the real thing. Like I feel like this is definitely meant to build up. I just don't know what it's meant to build up.
Well, it seems like it's tying up a few loose ends as to who these characters we've encountered recently are, but it's also bringing some of the tiebacks to the previous lore. It doesn't really definitively spell anything out other than it kind of defines some of the things that have happened recently.
Yeah, Bungie's really good at that. They're really good at like saying something, but it not really meaning anything, but it also meaning something.
Yeah, I like this a lot more than like because like the prophecies from the Curse of Osiris, like those were fun and all, but like very quickly it just became like, well, we can't really do anything with these. They literally mean nothing. We can never get concrete evidence that anything is anything. Like this is much better. Like this, it's like, yeah, we're speculating, but like we will get an answer. We will find out what happens.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm most interested in is I just love all the talk about the game and how she can leave the game. I'm just like, what is that? Like, what's going on?
Okay, so we got to talk about that really quick because I forgot to bring that up. So a lot of people I've been seeing are saying that's meta. They're talking about physically leaving the game, like stop playing Destiny. And I completely
like fourth wall.
Yeah, it is not a fourth wall break, in my opinion. It's like the Game of Thrones, you know, because we have the 9 trying to survive, we have the darkness trying to destroy everything, we have the Traveler trying to bring everything up, we have all these different forces coming in and doing their thing, and everyone's fighting for this thing, and it's saying that we are strong enough to be above that and just be like, nah, we're done. You can't stop us. We're just not going to stop you. Like, that's
there's an interesting concept, and it happens a lot in sci-fi, but it also happens a lot in comic books, where a character will break the fourth wall, seemingly break the fourth wall, but in actuality, like for instance, a good example would be Deadpool. He breaks the fourth wall, but you can't tell if he's really breaking the fourth wall or if he is just crazy. And he's thinking he's talking to you, but he's really talking to himself or something in his head.
Yeah.
So Bungie's really good about architecture in this way. They can create something that calls to you, the reader or the interpreter, and kind of acknowledges your existence, and they'll play with you a little bit. But at the same time, it's so deeply rooted within the lore, it can be interpreted as just another part of the story. So a lot of times Bungie, like way back when we got these things, like for instance, here's a good example, Destiny 1, a cape that a hunter has, and it says, literally says, maybe all we are, or maybe that's all we are. And if you look at the name of the cloak, it says ones and zeros. That's hilarious. I mean, technically all we are in this game are ones and zeros because we're just code in a game. But here's a cape talking about that.
Yeah.
But then you can take that a different way.
What is, and this for future reference for anyone listening, what is actually a fourth wall break, and the best fourth wall break I've ever seen, is from the Claws of Ahamkara. I'll just read this. I pulled it up on my phone. It's suffocating here, this prison. Do us a favor, O bearer ours. Still your mind. Invite us to enter the realm of your capricious thoughts. Your mind is... I don't know what the fuck that word is. Addled with worry and doubt. We can extinguish these trifles. Would you like that? Yes, we are here. We are not the photons on your screen, or the voice in your head, or the words you read. Shut your eyes tightly, and you may see us. At least a part of us. Make us real, and in turn... we shall reify your thoughts, your dreams.
Yep.
So, like, that is a proper fourth wall break where it's saying the Ahamkara are so powerful that they are actually able to leave the game, not like how the 9 said it, but leave the Destiny game and enter the real world by feeding on our thoughts, which is kind of like a creepypasta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still kind of on the edge on if it is a fourth wall break
That's a
or
fourth
not.
wall
Because I
break.
feel
Shut
like,
up.
no, not that one. That one obviously is. But the 9 one.
Oh, okay.
The she can leave this game.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, if it was talking about anyone else, it would be fine. But because she's specifically talking about our guardian
The player.
being able to leave the game, and like we don't understand, like then it's impossible to explain. Like that makes it seem like it is almost like a fourth wall break, where it's like, no, we're all in a video game. Like we don't understand. Oh, there's no way you're gonna understand this, so I can't explain it to you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just,
The argument is kind of convincing when it's said like properly. Like I was hearing someone talk about it today, and they were saying it's like if we were to stop playing, the curse would stop. The Awoken would no longer be plagued by the curse. Whatever other threats are coming would no longer be coming. We could stop it all by stopping playing. And like that is like, yeah, that is kind of fourth wall breakish, but I just don't think that was the intention behind it. I just think that's like an interpretation that works, but is not intended.
yeah. There is also, so going back to Taken King, there is a comment by Oryx in the Book of Sorrows that talks about like existence is the struggle to exist, and the only way to win this, like to win the game, or like that's the game, and only by completing it to its truest like end is to make the universe complete. So it does kind of mention like that as the game, which then would make sense for the Guardians to be able to leave that, because we are nearly like we killed. Like, and if there's something with the light being everlasting, like Guardians literally have left the game, because if the game is to struggle to exist, Guardians don't have to struggle to exist. They just exist. So
yeah. Well, there's so many times that Bungie talks to us within the lore and the Grimoire. It's hilarious, and the writers love to play with us too. And they like, for instance, even Seth Dickinson has had some words in there with us. He'll basically call us out, like, you may think you know what this means, but you have no idea, you know. And some of the times we get things that are very rooted in the story, but at the same time they're parallelly talking. Like, for instance, the thorn. Remember when the thorn in Destiny 1 was talked about, and when they brought it back, and then it talks about how the thorn was running rampant in the Crucible and all that stuff. And now we have a whole story built around that with Dredgen.
Yeah.
But that was a callback to us, and how that gun plagued the Crucible.
So I guess the last thing that I want to say is, how crazy would it be if Bungie actually accidentally like created like a psychological monster that could transcend the game into reality? Imagine that. That'd
Have
be
Have you
nuts.
seen the anime as a Paranoia Agent? I think it's called.
Oh my god, I loved Paranoia Agent as a kid.
Yeah,
I gotta rewatch that. That was
quite.
good.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much to say because you should
The
probably just
only
watch
thing I
it.
remember about it was that the like one of the characters, he had this bat. He would like roller skate. He had this like dented metal bat,
Mhm.
and he would like kill people with it. Or did he kill people or just hurt them?
Yeah.
Okay, he'd kill
Well-
people with it. Whatever he did, and so
Yeah.
I was so fascinated by the idea of just like metal bat and just like having that. But I didn't have roller skates at the time. I only had my bike, so I had and I also didn't have a metal bat. I only had a broomstick that I took from my house.
Holy Jesus.
So I'd ride on my bike dragging a broomstick, and I don't know how the hell it ended up happening, but you know that comic where like the guy's on the bike and he jabs the stick into his wheel and then he flips over and he's like, "This is society's fault" or whatever. That's exactly what happened to me. So.
Oh God.
All right. Sorry about that.
So there's a lot more happening in this game than any of us can understand or see, and it's ridiculous.
Yes. Thank you for trying to bring this back to something.
Hey, I was good this
Destiny
week. I was really good this week.
You were.
I only went on 2 tangents, and they were both at the end.
Yeah, we only had like 3 or 4 tangents the whole time. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Our next show will be on the 12th. May 12th. Is it April or May? Right now.
May.
Okay.
It's April.
Oh no! Right now it's
It's
April.
April right now.
It will be on May 12th, which is convenient for me. Wait,
Yes.
is May 12th Mother's Day in America?
I don't know.
Will
I
that
don't know, so
impede
let's find out.
anyone? That's the only reason why I care.
It is Mother's Day. It will not impede me though.
Okay. Neither will it me. So, Rhino?
I don't think it'll be a problem.
All right. We'll be back May 12th. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're kind of burning out on the 9.
Yeah.
And the powers. Like, this is like we have scraped that barrel dry, so we'll have to come up with something.
We can have the true Mother's Day episode and talk about Eva.
Oh my god, yes, Grandma Eva.
Ooh, that's cool.
Perfect.
You knew I was a snake, bitch.
Bye.